Hey everyone, I want to talk about my story with brain damage, which is something I've actually never talked about before, not on video a whole lot. And I work with a lot of people who have these fears of toxins, chemicals, fears, of having other things in their body that will maybe create something new like schizophrenia or bipolar, ADHD, a lot of fear of losing control, fear of missing out in life, having something that can't be managed. Am I going to have to take more medications? Has my brain damaged from a concussion? I played football or sports, or I was headbutting soccer balls, etc. And I'm going to break down why it's so important to accept the worst case scenario that maybe, yes, maybe you do have maybe a slower brain. Maybe you aren't as smart as maybe your friends. And why this still isn't the worst thing in the world, and why your perception on these things is always driving long-term emotional disturbance. The body does not create 99.9% of the time chronic anxiety, shame, or guilt, embarrassment without a strong conditional belief present, which I know because I had a lot of these ones which I had to break down all throughout my journey. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this topic. Again, I have many people that have this. So the first thing I want to talk about before I go into my story is if you have a bunch of compulsions, such as not wanting to eat certain foods, not taking certain household products, like not using things, the contamination carryover, you are going to have to make a list and do every single exposure necessary, even if you have panic attacks. You're going to have to take the risk that maybe you're using a shampoo that has chemicals in it. You're going to have to, and in your mind, it's going to feel irresponsible, but you're going to have to take the risk if you want to get better. I was on a call with someone, he's going to laugh when he watches this because he's someone I coach. Great kid. We were on a call the other day and we were talking, he was definitely afraid of soap, right? Many people are. And of the and the chemicals in it, there's so much stuff on social media. There's stuff based, oh, this and that, and YouTube videos and TED Talks, and, these really catchy, nonsensical titles that say, don't use these products, you'll die. You're all going to die anyway. And by the way, a great quote of the books upstairs, I'm reading Letters by Seneca, is something along the lines of, the man that tries to live forever isn't living at all. I'll say that again. The man that tries to live forever isn't living at all. And I think that's 100% accurate because we're obsessed with this longevity, and there's great things about longevity, great things about living a healthier life where you're feeling better. But if that's your number one goal in life, you're going to have some big problems with trying new things, being spontaneous. Anyway, so there's my opening spiel. This is a pecan coffee. It is amazing. Absolutely amazing. After I just had my pre-workout. So when I was 13 years old, one of my really good friends invited me to France to watch the Tour de France in correct me if I'm wrong, my French friends, I'm sure one of the girls I work with, Narbonne, I think, that was good, Narbonne. Or maybe it's Narbonne, I don't know. I went there and I was 13, so I'm 33 now, so it's 20 years ago, so I have faint memories, but my mom said before I went, she looked at my father, and when my father was alive and they were together, and said, Nicholas's eyes are jaundiced. His eyes are yellow. My mom said my eyes were literally like this color. They were almost, liver cancer type jaundice. And my dad's like, he's probably just sick or something. And they sent me on my way. So I was there, and I remember being there for a few days. I remember drinking beer at like a local pub because I was in some town 20 years ago in the off country of France. And we were like, yeah, we're 18. I have like memories of this. And they're like, okay. And they gave us beer. I'm like, this is awesome. So, which would never happen nowadays because everyone's so hyped up about PC culture and stuff. But, it was like when my mom looked out the window and saw my grandfather with a big 10-inch cigar in my mouth. And he's like, take a hit. My mom's like, what the fuck are you doing? It just was a different time and age. More than likely a better time to live, in my opinion. But there's great things about today. It just wasn't, though. Everyone wasn't so piped up about not making mistakes. So I remember I wasn't feeling well. And then I had a seizure in the shower. Everything started spinning. I collapsed, woke up. I had a full-blown seizure. That was the first seizure in my life. I've had 2 seizures because I had another one in grad school right before my OCD got really bad. I don't know if it was a grandma that was petite. The one in school was a petite. I thought it was temporal lobe epilepsy. More than likely it was just high anxiety from stress. This is right before my OCD became chronic. My father died. My dog died. Then my mom's sister died all in like 3 months. It was pretty tough. And I was in grad school trying to, do schoolwork a lot. So I woke up and I remember I have this memory of the doctor being like, you have to put this thing under your mouth and let it dissolve. And I'm like, I have such a bad gag reflex. And like, by the way, I was tongue-tied, so everyone makes fun of me. This is as much as I could stick my tongue out. That hurts. Like, that is as much as I could stick it out. No joke. Let's look from a sideways, right? Like, that strains everything. So that's why I have a little bit of a lisp. It's because, and I got the surgery. So anyway, couldn't do it. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? By the way, the doctor was in a bathing suit. I'll never forget that. He was in a bathing suit and shorts. And and I wasn't with my parents, by the way. I was with their parents. So think about the phone call I'm about to tell you. And I had to go to the hospital. They're like, this kid's got to go to the hospital right now. So I'm at the hospital, and my dad got a call. It was 3:30 in the morning, if I remember correctly, or 2:30. Is this Mr. Pinella? Yes. Is your son Nicholas Pinella? Yes. You need to come to France right now. Could you imagine? My dad freaked out. He got out of bed and went to the airport. My mom woke up. He was on his way to France. My mom's like, what the hell? You know, she's freaking out. He was probably just losing his mind, because that's a very serious phone call. Imagine you have children. You send your kids to another country, America. If you live in the UK, a doctor calls 2 a.m. your time. Oh, hi, your son Jimmy. Yeah, you have to come to Wisconsin right now. That's not like, oh, your son's a broken leg, or oh, your son, broke his hips, got into a car accident, but he'll be okay. He'll be messed up for a while. No, you have to come here now. So I did a spinal tap, and I was diagnosed with viral meningitis and encephalitis. So meninges, I'm not going to go into it. Swelling of the meninges, thankfully it was a viral infection, because bacterial infections, not good. They're worse when it comes to meningitis and encephalitis to my degree. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm 99% sure bacterial meningitis and encephalitis is worse. Anyway, I was in the hospital there for a while. They had to fly me back to Robert Wood Johnson. My dad's law firm, my dad's boss was, this is one of the bigger firms. And they said, look, your son's got to come back to America right now. He needs to come back to better treatment. I wasn't in Paris. I was in some off hospital in the middle of nowhere. I didn't even get to see the Tour de France. Snap. So, but I'm alive. maybe a little crazier. So they had to send over a neurologist, physician's assistant, an anesthesiologist, and a medical jet to get me back. That was a big burden on my father financially. My father's firm paid for it, which was amazing, and they took away his bonus. My dad still had to pay a lot out of pocket because we don't have free health care here. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was like $250,000 for everything. It was insane. I mean, they flew me back with a fucking jet. I had a seizure. I remember they injected me with something. This is going to sting. I had 3 seizures. I had another seizure. Then I woke up at Robert Wood Johnson. And I told my father I had a very low chance of survival. And if I did survive, wow, almost makes me want to cry. If I did survive, makes you think about how precious life is. Got choked up there for a second. That's crazy. Thinking it from my dad's perspective. If I did survive, I would be severely impaired for a long. My mom said my head was swollen, like literally from the cerebral spinal fluid. And there was like an aura around my head. I don't know if it was like a bluish green. And one day, after a month or two, back in Robert Wood Johnson, so I was there for, I think, 3 weeks in France. So it was a big ordeal. I made a complete turnaround. And the doctor said, I have no idea what happened. In the movies where you see people that throw the tennis ball against the walls, after like a week of when I started to get better, I was catch it with one eye. The doctors, the neurologists, my mom said, were flabbergasted on how much better I was. They were incredibly amazed, but I almost died. I've gotten into a severe car accident as well. My buddy went through a red light, 50 miles an hour. I got T-boned, truck hit me, my seat went through the floor. I was like 17 at that time or 16. That was really scary. Snapped my leg in half. I had a tib-fib fracture. My leg was like this. So I've had some crazy stuff happen to me in my life. Because I was a wild kid and was jumping off rocks, and I was a rollerblader, and I was always jumping off bridges. There's a bridge in my town called the Trestle. Top is like 50, 60 feet, and it's like 7 feet deep water. We used to jump off that. And to get up there was sketchy. It was like an old train railroad. So, surprised I'm alive with all the stupid stuff I've done. And many people have heard me talk about all my friends who I've lost, including my first girlfriend, and my neighbor, and kids I went to high school with from fentanyl and heroin overdoses, and I could have easily went down that route. So I'm very fortunate to be here, and I've done a lot of things in my life. I've put a lot of illicit drugs in my body. I've done basically almost every drug. I've not outwardly some of the really strong ones, but with some of the other, hard drugs I've done in my younger days, I've probably inadvertently taken crack and meth and heroin and amphetamines and some of the pills. And Did a lot of things that probably really messed my life up, my brain up in many ways at the time. Smoked a lot of weed for a long time. Never had a big drinking problem, but definitely took a fair amount of drugs between the ages of like 18 to 25. Like everyone gets so weird about talking about this stuff. Like people don't make mistakes. People make mistakes, guys. I mean, this is why unconditional acceptance is so key. People are very afraid to talk about their past. And I understand why. Because they don't want to be judged and don't want to lose their careers and stuff like that. But, I think it's an important thing to talk about that to show that we're all human and we all make mistakes. So that's my story with viral encephalitis and meningitis. And what does that mean about me? So, and having ADHD. At least I was diagnosed. One of my favorite stories, my mom took me back to Robert Wood Johnson. My mom loves telling this story. She's like, Nicholas, the doctor looked at me and said, your son's got one of the worst cases of ADHD I've ever seen. The kid can't sit still. I don't know what's going on. And my mom always used to say, because I got expelled from high school. Okay, so I was expelled from high school, which was a great thing. They used to say, Nicholas is good with school. He does his work. He just doesn't come to class. I had a hard time, and I've changed a lot of this. I read a lot of books now. I can sit still for long periods of time. I've still got that squirrel brain at times, but I had no fear of that. What's the worst thing that happens, right? I got some brain damage, so maybe I can't retain information. Maybe I struggle in other areas where people don't. Maybe I have a harder time sitting down for 8 hours straight. But I don't even think about those things. Maybe I have to get up more, walk around. I have to chew on some gum or something. And I'm not afraid of that. Oh, that's a compulsion, but I'm not afraid of it being a compulsion because there's a big difference between, you're never going to get the line in the sand with this. There's a big difference between there being a compulsion relating to your fears and just compulsive behaviors. Like humans have compulsive behaviors. If you're on a call and you're doing this on like all your calls, that might not be directly a compulsion related to your OCD. It might just be a compulsive behavior. I had a great conversation with someone who I believe he's a friend of mine. He's in his 70s who has obsessive compulsive tendencies for sure. But he's like, what's the difference between you and me? I said, well, yours, you don't really know it affects your life. For me, I want to jump off of a bridge. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth. We want to end our lives, many of us, because the suffering is so bad and the fears are so great and it feels so real. But it doesn't have to be that way because you could change your perspectives. You could change your behavior. So what do you have to do if you have these? Now you guys know a little bit more about me. And I'll share more stuff like this because I think it's important. I think people really like it from a connecting standpoint because I think it's you all know me. I mean, I love connecting in the comments, in the WhatsApp groups. If you come in for coaching and webinar services, and the WhatsApp link should be down below. So if you message Phil right away, we can get you in pronto. We've really widened our hours, so we're working with people pretty much 24/7. I mean, all time frames. I do calls at 5 o'clock in the morning all the way to 8 o'clock at night. So it's like it's all over the place. So what you have to do is you got to look at your compulsions, okay? And I'll show this afterwards. You got to make a list of your compulsions, regardless of how scary they are, and it can be a hierarchy, okay? I think I spell hierarchy right. I before E except after C. That sounds right. You have to make it, and you have to get these eliminated, okay? Then you have to do belief work, okay? And that is important. And then the first book on the reading list, which is right here, you have page 70, and then 96 and 97. And then all the other exercises in the book. People do all of them. So that's what you really want to do, okay? It seems simplistic on this, but, ask yourself, what am I avoiding right now? What products am I avoiding? What am I not using? We're not saying you have to take Raid, okay, and spray you in the eyes with it, because that's what people do. You're saying I have to put rat poison in my hands. No, we're just saying you have to slow the process down and feel the discomfort and break down the fears. But if you're like not using soap, if you're not using basic household products, if you're wearing gloves, all that's got to go. It's got to go. You got to feel it. What's the worst that happens? You die 20 years younger? We're all going to die anyway. I would rather die knowing I gave myself the best opportunity to face my fears than, as Seneca said, the man who tries to live forever isn't living at all. And that's the biggest problem with social media right now. All the big YouTube channels, the podcasts. As Rob says, podcasts are the new TV. I watch 6-7 hours of podcasts a day. Their life doesn't change. It's all compulsive traps, all certainty. And there's a lot of great stuff on these podcasts, but it is overblown to the max. As I always say, we're a seesaw, okay? This was the seesaw 50 years ago. We were teetered the other way. Doctors were smoking in offices. We're smoking on airplanes. all sorts of crazy shit. 100 years ago, there was cocaine and Coca-Cola. Doctors used to use arsenic and medication. Now we teeter to the other way, where we have way too much information. People are afraid to do anything. I don't want to drink because it's going to kill me. I don't want to smoke because it's going to kill me. I smoke at least a cigar a week. I love cigars. But I also run, exercise, do the rower, hike 14ers. Oh my, when I tell people I smoke cigars, they're like, you smoke cigars? That's terrible for you. In my mind, I go, who? That's a drastic response. Yeah, it's not the best for you. I'm putting smoke in my body, right? But I don't care. I'm going to live my life. I have an awareness that it's not good for me. There's many things you do. You drive on roads where there's no barriers and cars are coming like that every day. The chance of a head-on collision killing you is much higher than that cigar killing you. Okay? And I also enjoy it. That's the other thing. I enjoy it. Are cigarettes good for you? Hell no. Are they addicting? Of course. But if you like smoking some cigarettes when you go out and drink, I understand it. I do that every once in a while when I go to music festivals. But I have a good balance on it. I'm not smoking cigarettes all day long. A couple times a year, especially menthols. So it is important to cover this. And people go, oh my God, the structure is so bad. No, that's not what we mean. You think in your mind that structure is rigidity and needing to be a certain way. That's not structure. That's a trap. So that's very important to cover. Thank you again. Look at the What's Up link down below. It should be there. Phil@ocdrecovery.com if you don't see the link yet, but we're putting that in there, and we'll go from there and hopefully talk to you soon. Have a good one, everyone.